I'm happy to welcome you to my channel. I hope this story brings you something special and leaves a pleasant impression deep inside you. In a quiet English town, where the morning fog skimmed the greenery of old parks and the streets smelled of fresh bread and rain, lived the Bennett family. Their days started with the church clock and the crackle of a kitchen radio. Kettles murmured. Sparrows chattered outside the open window. Thomas Bennett liked the predictability of those mornings. He believed a steady start made for a steady conscience. He was tall, reserved, and worked at a law firm. When he walked, he carried the gravity of a man entrusted with words that could rearrange lives. Anna Bennett moved lightly through rooms, quick and composed. London had trained her well in polished salons and careful manners. She wore small pearl earrings and pale blouses. She could make a compliment sound like a lesson, and a lesson sound like a compliment. Between them, Thomas and Anna guarded the center of their small universe, their daughter Emilia. Emilia had a freckle on her nose that sunlight found instantly. Her laugh could soften even Tom's stern expression. They lived in a house not far from the river, where the windows framed the gray spines of old oaks. When it rained, the path to the gate shone like a mirror. Emilia traced the roots of raindrops on the glass and cheered for the ones that chose surprising detours. She learned to see small differences and to love them. For the Bennetts, prestige and reputation were not just words. They guided dinners, alliances, and invitations. Anna kept a drawer of creamy envelopes with crests. Thomas kept a calendar with more penciled initials than blank space. When a proposal arrived to meet the Sterlings, one of the wealthiest families in the region, they hardly hesitated. The Sterlings owned an estate in the Cotswolds. People described it with weather words and painting words. Broad, gracious, calm. Their philanthropy seemed effortless. Their reputation was impeccable. They had a son, Oliver Sterling, handsome, well-mannered, educated. People said he listened. Anna spoke with a tremor she tried to call excitement. Imagine, Tom. Oliver is a true partner for our Emilia. Connections, comfort, prospects, everything she needs. It is a sign. Thomas was careful with emotion. For Emilia, what will give her safety? He said. He pictured a house on a little hill when the river floods. Safety is a house on a hill. There was one obstacle. Emilia was already in love. Her heart belonged to James Carter, a young craftsman in a woodworking shop in the neighboring town. His flat above the shop smelled of cedar and glue. He kept his doorstep clean and his gaze gentle. His hands made beauty from wood and patience. They met when he caught her scarf by the river. They started with apologies and thanks and moved to Sunday walks. Real letters followed on real paper. His pages had sketches of chairbacks and toy boats. Hers had small things noticed, cats and crows and the edges of clouds after 4. They dreamed of a life without crystal or silk, a small kitchen with room for a vase, a garden that would one day spill over its borders, a table for 2 and then for 3. When her parents learned about James, their hands clenched with unease. Anna wrapped concern in careful words. "It is sweet, but it is not the path," she said. Thomas was plain. "We want another life for you, Emilia. Think about your prospects." They talked about stability and networks, and the fragile fortunes of a craftsman. They did not talk about affection, not because they did not value it, but because they feared it could not sprint with circumstance. Emilia would not hand her heart to someone she did not love. Pressure, however, tightens like a rope. Some evenings ended in tears. Others ended in a silence that made rooms colder by degrees. Under the blanket, whispering so as not to wake the house, she and James made a plan. She would come to the old bridge at 6 in the morning. He would be there. They would take the first train. They would build the rest with mornings and courage. She woke before dawn and dressed by memory. She left a note that felt both too brief and too long. The town held its breath as she passed closed shops and lit lamps. Mist draped the bridge like wet cloth. She waited 5 minutes, then 10, then 20. A clock she could not see said 1/4 past the hour. A bird tried 3 notes and gave up. She waited longer. The fog thinned enough to show her own shape, and no second shadow beside it. An hour passed. She understood. He would not come. On the way back, the lane bricks looked like a board where she had miscounted. She walked carefully, as if the town might crumble if she stepped wrong. At home, she folded the note and hid it in a book she would never finish. She slept without sleeping. A week later, her parents announced the wedding with Oliver Sterling. Their voices sounded like they believed words could do what time had not done. Emilia did not know what to expect, but she agreed. When she met Oliver, her guarded heart softened by degrees. He was kind and even tempered with warm eyes. She decided they might play roles for a while in front of her parents. Life arranged things differently. Roles can become habits, and kind habits can become truth. Oliver listened without waiting to talk. He valued her observations exactly as they were. He admitted he liked unremarkable points on a compass. Afternoons. Laundry hung straight. The way people look at each other when they pass a sleeping baby. They grew close in small ways. 2 cups on a tray in the morning. A book left open because the other might want to read where you are. A note on the counter that said, "Back by 6," and meant thinking of you. Day by day, respect turned into intimacy. Emilia felt pretense drop like a coat no longer needed. She realized she loved him for real. The day of the accident was ordinary, until it was not. She had an errand and a list. Oliver had a meeting and an apology for being late to lunch. The road was straight and the light indifferent. Somewhere a driver forgot a rule. A motorcycle skidded. Cars braked. Hazard lights bled red into the evening. Oliver reached the ambulance in time to climb in because he asked to, and because belief can sound like authority. In the hospital, the world went to a white that did not soothe. He held her hand through questions neither of them could answer. Time stepped aside and let fear enter first. She lived. The cost was counted in steps she could not take. She lost the ability to walk for a year. The word year suddenly took up more room than before. Rehabilitation rearranged their days. It taught a grammar built from repetition. Parallel bars, the logic of muscles, pain that blooms and recedes if you meet it steadily. Some mornings she was brave. Some afternoons courage buttoned its coat and left the room. Oliver was there for both. He learned the names and jokes of the nurses. He laced encouragement through instruction, so it did not feel like a lesson. He sang badly on purpose because it made her laugh. He measured progress in coins. An extra second standing. An inch gained. They hoarded that currency. When she wanted to throw the tally book away, he suggested they start another page, not another life. He did not break, and because he did not, she did not either. After a year she stood. It was not elegant. It was not long. It was everything. They celebrated as if the calendar had granted them an extra day. A small cake. A quiet cheer. Someone cried without trying to stop. Emilia understood that true love is not glitter or escape. It is the strength to stay when it hurts. It is the patient insistence that tomorrow is worth a rehearsal. Time resumed its pace. A few years passed. Emilia walked with a grace that had been earned. She kept her freckle and her habit of cheering for the brave raindrops. One morning, a newspaper on the breakfast table caught the sun. It said James Carter had been seen in London with another woman. He had run away too, but not with her. She read the line twice and felt peace arrive as lightly as a footfall. She smiled without triumph and with comprehension. The story she once tried to write had written itself without her. It had found other characters. Everything had happened as it should. Oliver looked at her as if checking the weather in her eyes. She shook her head. No storm coming. He nodded and poured more tea. People in town still talked about reputation. Envelopes still tried to impress with how they cracked when opened. Emilia rearranged what mattered. Zippers that do not catch on the first try. Knees that bend again after months of refusal. A beloved hand on your shoulder in the dark to say, "I am here." She learned a new vocabulary of certainty. Thomas, who argued for safety, watched them with quiet satisfaction. He came to see that safety and love, aligned, make a stronger house than ambition alone. Anna took pride in how Oliver and Emilia did not climb ladders. They kept still and let the world travel a little toward them. At dinners, Anna told stories that ended with laughter. Her lessons sounded more and more like compliments. Some mornings, Emilia still walked to the river. The old bridge stood where it always had. Fog wrapped it like a shawl when the weather obliged. She paused and let the water move under her. It was not a place to remember failure now. It was a place to measure distance. The girl who once waited was still herself with a different arithmetic. She went home to Oliver. He handed her a cup and asked about the crows. She answered with too much detail. He listened with too much patience. That was their luxury. Sometimes she imagined the life that might have been. A small flat above a shop. Wood shavings in every corner. Letters bent open and left on the table. She felt tenderness for that version of herself. Then she pictured the life she had. It fit like a coat cut to her shoulders. Not spectacular. Not fragile. Built. She called the year she stood again a second birthday. It was followed by mundane miracles. Stairs taken without arithmetic. The day she forgot her cane in the umbrella stand. Laughter that arrived on time. On anniversaries, they did not exchange expensive gifts. They traded promises like tools. I will leave you the best part of the blanket. I will learn your new fear and not scold it for being born. I will ask how you are and listen long enough for the second answer. He kept his promises, and she kept hers. Between them, they kept a life that felt inevitable in the most generous sense. If you walked past their window in the evening, you might see simple shapes in lamplight. Two figures, a book open, a cup set down, heads turned toward each other, You might think nothing remarkable was happening. You would be right. Remarkable things rarely raise their voice. They are counted at the end of the day, when you are making tea, and the clock is not strict. The town stayed itself. Fog and bread, and the unsteady mercy of English weather. People still measured one another by names in certain columns. It did not bother her now. She had found the quiet sentence that mattered. We are here. It is enough. It is more than enough.